In Another World with My War Factory, Part 4, by Farmwitch 4275. All 15 girls were swarming with different emotions: shock, awe, amazement, and terror, as Arterius's scarlet-red wings flapped on either side of them. The saddles they sat on were a lot more comfortable than expected, but the soft cushion didn't change the fact that they were all effectively under duress while riding a dragon. Arterius casually whistled to himself, in a way that a dragon could anyway, as he flew back toward his home. The air around them was strangely calm, as Arterius approached his landing zone, a heavy concrete platform with a large H marked in the middle in white paint. Caliban was waiting for them. He wore the same uniform the girls had first found him in, his scarlet-red cloak and gear, this time wearing a mask and carrying a strange gilded war blade. The girls dismounted gingerly, half curious, half scared, and attempted to use the dragon as a shield against Caliban. "She wants to meet you," Caliban said, his voice distorted and artificial. Who?" one of the girls, hiding behind Arterius's leg, asked. "Stop asking questions. Come, now," Caliban commanded. "That means you too, Art." Caliban directed everyone to the large warehouse, the very building he had warned the girls against entering earlier. All of the newcomers, as well as Arterius, followed him closely, with the girls using the dragon as a shield. Caliban seemed stressed, angered, his tone much more hostile than everyone remembered. He stood in front of the massive doors to the building and raised his blade. A loud screech erupted, and the doors opened, massive gears grinding against their mechanisms, as the multi-ton steel doors slowly groaned open. The noise was enough to alert the entire dragon population to the event. Once the doors were opened, just enough to allow Arterius to enter, Caliban commanded them to step inside. They all hesitated, but unwilling to agitate him, they complied. Caliban entered last, closing the door behind them. The room was dark, the only lights coming from strange glowing blue orbs that illuminated the ground toward a corner of the structure's interior. The group approached, and a series of bright lights suddenly turned on, exposing a large orb-like machine mounted into the wall. The lights dimmed as a strange mechanical grinding noise echoed through the space. The orb's shell split open, revealing a woman. The group stood in shock. It was a human woman, wearing some kind of skin-tight suit that had dozens of thick and thin cables inserted into her skin. Each cable somehow led into the shell itself, blue, purple, red, black, jutting out from her spine and arms. She seemed to float peacefully in some kind of fluid or liquid substance, her hair flowing freely behind her. Caliban moved up to the pod, pressing buttons on a control panel next to the orb. "Wake up, Lorelei. The visitors you asked for have arrived," Caliban said. The woman's eyes opened and looked at the group in front of her. She examined each girl, then the dragon, carefully inspecting everyone before finally smiling at them. She spoke, her voice coming through some kind of speaker system, but clear, perfect, melodic, and sweet. "Well, howdy. So these are the magic people I done heard so much about." Caliban sighed with a smile. "Please excuse her, she's from Texas," he said with a mocking chuckle. "Oh, come on, when are you going to stop pulling that card?" she said with a grin. "When it stops being true," Cal replied with a side glance. The two shared a laugh together and carried on. "Introductions. This is Lorelei, my wife," Caliban said. "Oh," everyone said, suddenly understanding the relationship from their behavior. "So, that's a dragon, huh?" Lorelei asked, using a mechanical arm nearby to gesture toward Arterius. "Yup, they're real here. The red ones seem to be okay. The grey and blue ones are very bitey, clawy, and burny," Caliban remarked, probably recalling a previous experience. "He's a handsome one, ain't he?" Lorelei said, using one of the mechanical arms to reach up and scratch the underside of Arterius's chin. "Yup, he isn't the biggest one around. He's sort of like a teenager in dragon terms. But anyway, satisfied?" Caliban asked, gesturing to the group. "Oh, definitely. I'm going to need time to think. But this is pretty cool," Lorelei replied, giving the crowd a playful wink. "Okay then, you go back to sleep now," Caliban said and typed on the keypad. Lorelei frowned but curled into a fetal position before the pod closed. Before anyone could say anything, Caliban raised his hand in protest, then gestured for everyone to walk out of the room. The massive doors reopened, and everyone was shepherded outside into the open air. The entire dragon clan was now surrounding the building, Every dragon, from younglings to elders, perched on every available spot they could find. A few younglings even bent a redwood tree over from their weight in an attempt to catch a glimpse of what was going on. Caliban took a deep breath and let the doors close behind everyone. He pressed a button panel on his left arm, and a series of beeping noises followed. A rumble came from the ground, and a few dragons scattered as a structure emerged. A large, square, two-story building with stairs leading up. Caliban inspected the structure and then returned to the group. Okay, guest house is built. Please give us time to pretty it up. It's basic, but this will do for now. Come on in, Cal said, gesturing for the ladies to follow him inside. Basic, he said. The girls all gasped at the luxury they suddenly found themselves in. Caliban pointed everything out as he gave them a tour. The bedrooms had large two-person beds covered in soft, luxurious cotton bedding and fine linens, with full dressers filled with clothes, vanities with grooming tools and jewelry. All of it was of such incredible quality that most girls wouldn't see these in their lifetimes, even if they married into nobility. Caliban showed them the bathroom, which amazed them, then the built-in kitchen, which even the most prized chefs would be jealous of. A dining room with space for 20 people, a living room surrounding a large polished marble fire pit, and even a small library full of books. Well, here's your place. Pick a room. You'll be here a few days, then we'll send you home. Help yourself to any clothes you like. The jewelry is just fake costume stuff, but it's nice to look at anyway. If you're ever hungry, help yourself to the pantry. Got some decent stuff in there. Cal said, as he put his axe staff aside and sat quietly by the fire pit. He leaned in, twisted a dial of some kind, and suddenly there was a roaring, warm fire. These simple peasant girls from a close-knit community in the middle of nowhere had no idea what to say or do, so all of them slowly just funneled in and sat by the fire. By the time the last girl sat down, Caliban had taken his helmet off and was calmly poking at the flames with a stick. So, what exactly is going on? Genasi asked. Want the full story, huh? Guess it's okay to tell you now. Lorelei and I were married decades ago, but life decided we weren't struggling enough. One incurable, debilitating disease later, we lost our unborn son, and she lost the use of her limbs, nearly her life. To make things easier on us financially, we mutually decided to join the Crybratech mechanoid program, hence the orb thing she's in, Cal said with a sorrowful sigh. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Marie replied. Short story, that sphere thing is her heart, lungs, and only link to the outside world. It keeps her alive and ensures she doesn't feel any pain. The machinery she's attached to connects her directly to all the machinery here. In short, she is the equivalent of a sort of machine spirit. See that camera lens there? Caliban gestured to an odd glass dome nearby. That's her. She can see and hear everything. She is the factory. Cal remarked, with a strangely proud smile. The girls all shivered with a mix of sadness and fear as they processed what Caliban had just said. They sat in silence for a few minutes, contemplating the true depth of what was happening. Now get this. Apparently, life decided I wasn't suffering enough. Just after Lorelei started her training, guess whose brother got involved with the mob? Caliban gestured to himself. And was found dead in a ditch with hundreds of thousands of credits worth of gambling debts. Mine. My dumbass brother. Poor bastard. So, with family debt I couldn't get rid of, my wife slated for service in the fleets, I had no choice but to try to make a new living. I got drafted before I could even try, though, and I was sent to start training as a service engineer in the Space Corps. The army would cover my debts and maybe go after the guys hunting me. That's how this happened, Cal said. To the girls' shock and horror, Caliban procured a pistol from his belt, aimed it at his temple, and fired. The impact caused his head to jerk, but he just ignored it. He closed his eyes as the bullet hit him, then opened them again. He looked around, grunted as he twisted his jaw, almost like he had tasted something awful, then spat out the bullet into his hand, showing the blood-covered round before tossing it into the fire pit. He simply carried on as if nothing had happened and resumed poking the fire with a stick. Resurgence program. I had the genes for it, so when I got drafted into service, I was put in a special forces unit for soldiers that can't die. I get an arm blown off, it grows back. My torso gets torn open, it grows back. I get hit with artillery, I just get reassembled and recloned. I have no idea what I even am anymore. I feel nothing, he said, chucking the stick into the fire. Then what you are saying is, your wife knows not how to live, and you have no idea how to die? Marie asked, her voice trembling. Yep, then, suddenly we find ourselves here. Our entire facility, factory, her life support, all of it, here. Just poof. One moment I'm arguing with a revenue agent, the next moment I'm here, still on my property, but making a huge pot of bear gator meat gumbo for a bunch of frigging dragons. Still have no idea why, but that grey dragon dude had it coming when I blew his torso open, Caliban said with a chuckle. Speaking of bear gumbo, Cal said, standing up. He moved to a nearby white box in the kitchen and procured 12 small bowls of an odd-looking but delicious-smelling stew. Must be a bit peckish after all this insanity. Help thyself. Well, that explains why, when we met you, you were so, what's the word? An asshole? Yeah, Cal replied as he handed Amari her stew bowl. Stress does that to a guy. Sick wife, millions in debt, military service with a freak show platoon, and all the shit that comes with that, he said, patting Amari on her head. He sat back down and resumed poking the fire with a new stick. All the girls just sat there, sharing glances and looks among each other. Genasi finally broke the awkward silence. So, why are we here? Lorelei's idea. She's no dummy, and has known stuff like this happens all the time. She's already trying to figure things out. Simple answer is, there's something big on the horizon. She's going to keep you here, and probably teach you how to use the primary product we manufacture here. Cal replied, with a strangely smug grin. What do you make here? Marie asked. Tanks, war machines, heavy industrial equipment, digging machines, drills, cranes. Anything with heavy machinery or tracks, but specifically tanks, Cal said, pointing to a picture hanging on a wall. The picture was of one of Caliban's machines, but the wheels were strange. It was a heavy steel beast, with wheels that looked like giant cogs, forcing some kind of long interlinking metal chain to move at its sides. Nobody could figure out what it was, but Genasi, Marie, Amari, and Serenia recognized the huge tube on the front as a gun, a bigger version of what Caliban had used to kill the smog dragon. We used to make historically accurate versions of military hardware used in various world wars for collectors, museums, and other things, based on donated schematics and blueprints. Rich people would pay for toys. Smart people paid us to make history come back to life. That particular one is a beast called the Porsche Tiger. We make them for fun or testing nowadays. Making one that's dragon-sized would be stupid, but we can still make them people-sized. Or, if fate has anything to say, maybe they won't be war machines, and we can just build them for tourists. Who knows? But in any case, considering what I've seen from this planet so far, you won't have anything to worry about, Cal said with a laugh. The girls all shared one more glance of concern with each other before finally deciding to taste the stew. Each girl, regardless of her preferences and tastes, fell into a near-orgasmic feeding frenzy. The Croco Bear Gumbo was nothing short of delicious, a selection of rich spices blended into meat that had been carefully prepared, tenderized, marinated, and simmered for hours in a creamy, flavorful sauce. It wasn't too thick, just the right consistency, served hot and paired with a strange grain called rice. Looks like they love your cooking, hun. Lorelei's voice chimed in from a speaker nearby. Cooking! A loud voice came from outside. I want my gumbo! Arterius yelled in despair as he realized what they were eating and attempted to shove his face through the doorway, tearing the door from its frame. Gimme gumbo! The whole building shook and shuddered as the dragon attempted to claw his way inside to get a taste, his cries a mixture of desperation and sadness. Calm down, Art! Holy crap, your pot is still simmering. It'll be ready soon. This is a small batch I made for the guests. Don't worry, you guys will get your feast in due time, Caliban yelled, trying to calm the dragon down. Gumbo. Arterius trailed off sadly as he backed away, sulking. Well, now we understand how you managed to make the dragons like you, one girl, the blue-skinned half-devil, remarked, setting her bowl down on the table. What? Nah, they just like it. I'm keeping up good word with them because I can be very, very persuasive. You can lie, you can steal, you can feed an army, but nothing, I mean, nothing works better to convince another person than sound reason backed up by evidence and history, Caliban said, leaning back. But anyway, you lot can rest for the night, wash up in the bath, etc. Tomorrow, I'll have Art take you back home so you can tell your parents to stop panicking. And then, he paused, giving them all a knowing look. You start cadet school, he finished, his smile strangely ominous. To be continued. Like and subscribe for more content.